Hey there, thanks for joining us after what was hopefully a less busy weekend for you than Maryland athletics had. The last few days for the Terps included, but weren't limited to, Maryland women's basketball and men's basketball, earning differing road results. Men's lacrosse dropping a Final Four rematch, while women's lacrosse cruised through a home win. And then how about this? Both baseball and softball picked up a pair of wins. And then gymnastics posted another road 196 score, but please don't throw a balance beam my way. Now, let us drop everything for you and break down how it happened on this edition of The Left Bench.
Welcome back to the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ben Geffner, that's Ryan Martin, and Ryan, a lot of ground to cover today. It's hoop season, but first let's start with the official team sport of Maryland, that'd be lacrosse.
Yeah, Ben, it's Maryland lacrosse season, and it's all about the Terps who dropped a close one at Syracuse. Top-ranked Maryland men's lacrosse hit the road for the first time Friday, traveling to number 2 Syracuse. It was a rematch of last year's Final Four win for Maryland, and seemingly the best pre-Valentine's Day matchup money could buy. The game fit the bill, but for the Terps, the Orange's great defense and draw control dominance led Maryland to its first loss to Syracuse during head coach John Tillman's tenure. Let's start right after first draw at the Dome. The Terps earn a pair of one-goal leads when Leo Johnson and Eric Spanos each score less than 5 minutes in. But the Terps' advantage might have made like the money in your wallet over Valentine's Day Saturday, vanishing right before your eyes. The shot by Syracuse's star, Joey Spallina, his second of a game-high 4 scores, gives the Orange a first-quarter lead it would never concede. That goal was also part of 5 straight Syracuse scores, a run that was backed by a massive Orange face-off advantage, and ultimately led to a 7-4 Syracuse halftime lead. Maryland makes it a contest here in the second half. The Terps come to within one twice, with scores by Eric Spanos and this one by Elijah Stobaugh that turns it to a 10-9 Syracuse lead with 13 minutes to play. But in the end, the Orange's defense is the name of this game. Goalkeeper Jimmy McCool and Syracuse's Billy Dwan keep Maryland scoreless for the rest of the game. And after 8 straight losses to the Terps, number 1 Syracuse earns a gritty 11-9 win over Maryland. Coach Tillman, it's hard to think of a better mid-February wake-up call than this one.
I thought our guys really did a nice job. So certainly want to kind of look at the film and figure out how we can be better. But again, this is why you play these teams. So many good players are going to put pressure on you, shows you where you need to work, what you can improve upon, and how we can get better. So I'm excited about this week for sure.
And less than 72 hours after that loss to Syracuse, we're so lucky to be joined by Maryland men's lacrosse long stick midfielder and senior captain A.J. Larkin to talk a little bit about that loss at the GMA Wireless Dome and preview this big weekend ahead against some Princeton Tigers. Here's A.J.
Happy to be joined by Maryland men's lacrosse senior long stick midfielder A.J. Larkin. A.J., thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, AJ, appreciate you coming on for this episode of The Left Bench. Of course, this conversation coming after the loss at Syracuse. That was a top team with you guys. Number 2 is Syracuse. When you take a look back a couple days after checking out the film and seeing how the Orange pulled off that 2-goal win, what were some of the biggest things that have stuck out on film these last 2 days?
Yeah, well, like I said, first off, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. And, obviously Cuse is a great team. I know a lot of people know the coaches. I've been playing them for a couple years now. And, they got a very heavy senior class, same grade as me. So growing up playing against them, kind of getting to see them develop over the years, it's been cool to see from afar. But when you play them, it becomes tough. You get up there, it's a different environment. Playing in the Dome can be a little crazy sometimes, but I think just going forward, we got to stick to being Terps. I think you look back at some of the teams in the past, and there's always bumps in the road, right? When you're on a roller coaster, there's always ups and downs, and I don't think that in order for us to find the identity of our team, like we're not a undefeated team. Like that's not, I knew that kind of going in the year. Like obviously you hope that, but that's a very rare thing. It's kind of a unicorn-esque thing. And we need to take this and kind of just learn from it like we did today. Go back, watch the film. It might be painful at some points, but that's what kind of we've been trying to do. And we just go about our week like we have every other week, no matter the win or the loss. It's a reset button. And now we're just looking forward to Princeton.
Yeah, AJ, you had that season opening goal against Loyola, always a consistent, source of production on both sides. How would you evaluate your role now, senior on this team, upperclassman, as one of the leaders of this team?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an honor. I know being voted a captain with Spanos, Schaller, and Kohler, it's definitely one of the highest honors I've ever received. And not only that, but to be put in a category of people that I've looked up to over the years of being here, guys like J Mac, Ajax, Brett Makar, Luke Weirman, Logan, tons of great alums that I'm still extremely close with to this day. And to now be able to flip the page and step into one of those shoes that they were in at a time is not only humbling, but it's very you realize kind of a lot of the stuff that you don't see when you're young, that they had to not only deal with, but kind of the experience they had of playing many years and being able to put that into action. So I think it's been a great transition, but I think we also, one of the strengths of being in a spot like this is bringing the team together and using the lessons you've learned over the past couple of years to kind of assimilate and build together kind of what we need moving forward. So I think that's something that especially our seniors, our captains, and our leadership council have been doing well together.
AJ, you mentioned turning into action, flipping the page after that loss to Syracuse, and you brought up that it's Princeton coming to town this weekend. It's a Tigers team that's coming off maybe an even more surprising loss this past week, and they're going to be hungry. When you look at this matchup, Maryland versus Princeton, another top one and tough February game, what does Maryland and for you, Maryland defensively need to do after that Syracuse loss? Maybe some areas of improvement before that home game.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, we play a lot of tough teams. I think Loyola is going to have a great year. Cuse, obviously a great team. Same as Princeton. I'm a little surprised, but that from the loss they had, but at the same time, like that doesn't phase any of our mindsets at all. They're still a great team. The team they lost to, Penn State, great team. And that's kind of the schedule that Coach Tills and the coaching staff builds with us. Like every week, like we're playing great teams. So I think, when we think about it defensively, it's the same thing we've always thought. It's our identity. It's kind of what we run. We're not gonna hit the panic button after a loss, just because now we're 1-1 or whatever our record is. It's not how we are, and we take it day by day, and we just keep on tugging away at what we need to keep on doing our weekly routines because it works. It does, and we hit the drawing board every Monday, and we reevaluate. So that's what we did today, and we're looking forward to having a real home game finally. Hopefully, be out in the stadium, which would be awesome. In front of all the Terp fans and just playing together again. It's not like, and we talked about this in the media after the game, but, it sucks losing, but we get to play again. And that's what I think is so valuable about this group. We just love playing together, and it wasn't our best game, and we didn't get the job that we wanted to get done, but it's not May. It's February, and we have a lot of time to improve until then, and we have a lot of work we need to do to turn the team that we want to be. But we're just blessed, and we're super excited to be able to have the opportunity to play again on Saturday. So,
yeah, AJ, bouncing off that strength of schedule there, 8 of your next 9 opponents are ranked. Does the process kind of change on a week-to-week basis, or is consistency more the name of the game here?
Yeah, I think you just hit the ball on the head there. I think, or the nail on the head. I think it's consistency. if I'm preparing different for Loyola like I did for Cuse, like I'm doing something wrong. Like you need to treat and this is something that I've learned since my first day of being here. It's like you treat everything the same. Like I'm going to treat a practice like I'm stepping into the national championship game, because if I don't do that, then I'm not going to be prepared, right? I'm going to step onto that stage and I'm not going to be ready. And that's kind of how we approach every week, right? If I approached a team like, if I did complete opposite and looked down on a team that we played in the past and looked at other teams higher, then I'm doing a disservice to not only them, but to myself, right? If I'm not preparing myself as much as I think or know that I should be preparing, then I'm not helping my team as much as I can as well. So it's just consistency, week in and week out, and kind of bringing it every day. We're a very routine-based team. We're a very routine-based defense. So just kind of attacking it every day, every week, and just kind of moving on. I'm going to wake up the same time tomorrow as I did last Tuesday and do the same exact thing. It kind of gets repetitive after a while, but you got to find the joy in the little things. And that's what we try to do as well.
And AJ, last one for me. You talked a little bit about that consistency, and you graduated maybe one of the most consistent Terps of all time in Logan McNaney. And know he's still with the program, but your classmate in Brian Rupel, who we saw for McNaney in 2023, but Rupel's the guy now. Being with him defensively and being with him these last 4 years, give me one word to describe Rupel that Maryland fans should know about, and a classmate, another Marylander, and the new goalkeeper for Maryland.
Yeah. Before I give you that one word, I think a lot of people, there's no question to the success that Logan McNaney had.
Yeah.
And people try to compare, I think, Brian and Logan all the time. And honestly, I try to tell Brian, and we try to tell Brian that you're Brian Rupel. Like he was an excellent high school player. I've known him my whole life. He's one of my best friends. Like I don't expect Brian to be Logan McNaney. I expect Brian to be Brian. And that word, I think, comes with that is energetic. I think he's a huge juice guy for our team. He's a leader that I look up to on the team as well. And I think he's just getting started to not only obviously he played in 2023, but a great career he's going to have in the next 2 years. And couldn't be more excited that he's on the back line and I can trust him in between the pipes. And he's a guy that brings our whole team juice. And he's very athletic, very fast. When all those other lacrosse terms, he's a great player, but he's a juice guy for us. And I trust him to wake me up in the morning if my alarm's not going off, to save the ball in the net. So he's a guy that I know will always have my back as well. So
nice. We're looking forward to seeing that juice on Saturday against Princeton. AJ, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, guys.
After defeating number 13 Syracuse to open its season, number 7 ranked Maryland women's lacrosse faced the next best team, number 12 Virginia, on Valentine's Day. The Terps showing no love to the Cavaliers all game long. The Maryland offense scoring in the first minute of the game and never looking back. 3 goal showings from Keely Block and Jordan Lipkin would be the best performances on a normal day, but senior Corey Edmondson one-upped them both, scoring 4 goals in the game. Overall, 8 different Terps end up putting the ball in the back of the net on their way to a dominant 17-9 victory. Head coach Kathy Reese noticed the Terps' offensive performance.
So I think, again, our offense was really balanced. I just tried to look at the stat sheet before I came out here so I even know who scored, because I feel like my head spins in the game and I'm just trying to make sure I have enough people in the game and who's subbing. But we were really balanced across the board, which is nice to see.
Now, we may be in mid-February, but how about a little Terps football news? 79 days after Maryland's football season ended in Detroit against Michigan State, the path to the professional level continued last Wednesday for a pair of Terps. Offensive lineman Alan Haran and defensive back Jalen Husky each accepted invites last week to participate in the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. Let's begin with the big man. Haran earns the invite after being an honorable mention All-Big Ten selection this past season. Starting all 24 games over his 2 years in College Park, the Jamaica native is projected as a late day 3 pick. Husky joins Huron at the Scouting Combine after getting second-team All-Big Ten honors last year. The Frederick native and former Quince Orchard Cougar had 4 interceptions last year, tied for the Terps' team lead and the 18th best nationally. He'll now look to be a Day 2, early Day 3 pick, and if he is, Husky would give Maryland a drafted defensive back for a 5th straight year. Look out for Huron and Husky to be in action at the NFL's Combine that's set to start a week from today on Monday, February 23rd. Maryland fans have made their voices heard this season. From football to basketball, Ben, some are upset about the athletic department's budget.
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. Our Eddie Galkin spoke to Baltimore Sun reporter Mike Howes, who co-reports that Maryland isn't doing as bad as some other Big Ten teams.
Excited to be joined by Baltimore Sun reporter Mike Howes. He just released an article, wrote the article with Jeff Barker about Maryland's trajectory and the last decade. Mike, what did you find?
Right. Well, appreciate you for having me on, Eddie, and
Of course.
a lot of interesting stuff about how the Big Ten move kind of solved some of Maryland's financial instability. So about half of the last athletic year, which would have been last season, so before Jim Smith came, before Malik Washington stepped foot on campus as starting quarterback, this is from last year, so important to recognize that. But about half of Maryland's money came from conference distributions from the Big Ten, which makes me kind of think that these Big Ten programs, you can even maybe lump in some SEC programs too. A lot of college athletics now has become about television revenue, less fan-driven, more media-driven, and mid-tier programs risk being squeezed in this sort of environment now.
What does this mean for the future of the athletic department and some of these bigger programs like football and basketball who have big recruits coming in?
Right. Well, I think you got to look at the incremental revenue outside of the Big Ten money. Where is Maryland going to be making their money from? And that's what's going to separate them from other Big Ten programs. A big thing from this report was about the ticket prices, not ticket prices, the ticket sales. Ticket sales over the past decade for Maryland since they've joined the Big Ten, it's kind of stagnated, and that would make sense in a way because the football team generally year after year is disappointing while the basketball team is good. So you're never kind of really elevating, especially after the year the report came out for this one. Maryland football had a 4-8 season, so of course ticket sales weren't good, but that's concerning for Maryland, especially, I mean, just last week you saw for the basketball game, tickets were being sold for $1. So those incremental ways to get revenue, that's what's going to separate Maryland for getting a big recruit when you're competing with a Penn State, with a Rutgers, which is, I know, something you want to talk about.
Yeah, jumping off that, we've talked a little bit about those reports that maybe are a little surprising with Rutgers and even Penn State being in the red. That's not necessarily the case for Maryland, is it?
No, it's not. So Maryland is only about $5 million in a shortfall. When you compare it to Penn State and Rutgers, two teams that just kind of regionally speaking are in Maryland's area, they're always going to be brought up in the conversation about Maryland, whether it's with the football team. Are we better than Rutgers? Are we on the same playing field as them in terms of competitiveness? And then Penn State, like getting recruits. I mean, Maryland, Penn State, there's always going to be recruiting battles there. So that's something very interesting to watch, how those two schools were very deep in the red. Obviously, that was going viral on social media too, but Maryland is not that bad. It could be worse. All things considered, Maryland's financial situation is pretty good. They're just very much leaning on this Big Ten money that they're getting right now, it's the reason why they joined the conference in the first place.
Well, I appreciate the time, Mike. Always nice catching up with you and great report, great article with you and Jeff.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Eddie. Thanks for having me on.
Always great stuff. Thanks so much, Eddie. The NIL landscape now, Ryan, so interesting to keep track of.
It is, and Eddie and Mike both bring up really great points there, Ben. When you look at either football and Maryland keeping a guy like Malik Washington or Buzz Williams in basketball with looking to retain maybe a Darius Adams or an Andre Mills, it's going to cost them to keep these guys in College Park. That's just the way it is these days.
No doubt. Crossover season still in full swing, but stay with us. Lots of hoops coverage still in store. A miraculous women's basketball game, plus our Daniel Stein joins us live for some baseball talk.
And that's not even close to being all. We've got wrestling, gymnastics, and a whole lot more. Keep it here.
moms and dads. We know it's not always been easy, and it's been a lot of hard work. What you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas. Everything I do it for you. Mom, love you always. No, it's true. Everything I do it for you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Both basketballs, baseball, balance beams, and a Buckeye wrestling win. There's no need to go anywhere because we're back on the left bench where he's Ben Geffner. I'm Ryan Martin with you. And BG, we've got to talk about that nearly 20-point comeback Maryland women's basketball earned in Columbus Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt, Ryan. That was a top 20 matchup for the Terps at Ohio State Sunday. But like LeBron and no tabs in the 2016 finals, it wasn't over until the clock hit triple zeros.
You got to get LeBron there somehow, huh? Okay, that works. That works.
Of course. Well, it's not March Madness yet, but David Barrett's one shining moment sure is in the air for Maryland women's basketball. After a rough January, Brenda Fries's Terps have surged back with 4 straight wins. The latest being a clutch 76-75 victory over then number 8 Ohio State on Sunday. ESPN gave the Buckeyes a 96% chance to win in the second quarter. Let's see how Maryland debunked that. The Terps are down as much as 19 before halftime. Then they jet to an 11-3 run to start the third quarter. Maryland knocks down 9 second-half threes, none better than this logo splash by Sailor Poffenbarger. The Terps on the road in Columbus claimed their largest comeback win since 2019.
Sailor had a Spiro Dides level splash there, huh? Well, from the women's win to the men's mundane performance, Maryland men's basketball took its first winning streak in Big Ten play to Piscataway Sunday to take on a bottom-tier Rutgers team. It was a matchup of two teams who came in a combined 5-20 in conference play, and it played out as such. And in the end, the Terps tumbled to an 11-point loss at Rutgers. The first half is what you'd expect from the Big Ten's 2 worst offenses, a poor 27-27 tie at the break. But then an early second-half 3 from Bosnia and Herzegovinian Harun Zerno confuses Maryland even more than that pronunciation and caps off a 7-0 Rutgers run to start the final period, a lead the Scarlet Knights would never let go of. Rutgers shoots over 15% better in the second half and ends up leading by as much as 14 in the game's final moments. Tariq Stevens finishes with a game-high 21 for Rutgers. Meanwhile, Maryland can only muster a team-high 13 points from freshman Darius Adams, the Terps' leading scorer during the Manchester Township, New Jersey natives' homecoming, and Maryland drops this one by 7 to fall to 3-11 in Big Ten play.
From a winter sport back to a spring one, TSC associate producer Daniel Stein now joins us live from Bob Turtle Smith Stadium to break down Maryland baseball's start to 2026.
Stein was with the team these last few days for the Maryland Baseball Network. Daniel, how would you evaluate the Dirty Terps' opening weekend?
Yeah, guys, this is where Maryland baseball coach Matt Swope will be standing this afternoon as his Dirty Terps battle Georgetown in the home opener right here at Bob Turtle Smith Stadium. The Terps come into that game with a 2-1 record after taking 2 of 3 against UNCW down in Wilmington, North Carolina last weekend. The Terps marched into Brooks Field against a really stout Seahawks team, and they took 2 out of 3. They won the first game on Friday by a score of 5-3, and then they beat Wilmington again in the second match of a doubleheader played on Saturday by a score of 5-1. Some timely extra base hits powered the Terps, and just like Bryson Stott's old walk-up song, if you're Maryland baseball coach Matt Swope, you gotta feel A-O-A-OK about your team's performance.
And 24 hours is a lot, but we committed to playing a bunch of different guys, and we knew we were going to kind of do this here early on, especially with the lack of at-bats we've gotten outside. So it's more of a mental thing. You just try to keep the energy up, and we were lucky to come out with a series dub.
And guys, I was listening to all the walk-up songs for the different players this weekend, and one guy on UNCW was walking up to Hakuna Matata by Gunna, which is a banger. And that song is really a mentality for this year's Terps team. They're just so locked in. But there's also 20 new faces. Let's learn one of them. It's the new Friday night starter for Maryland, Lance Williams. In the words of legendary rapper NBA Youngboy, Lance has been striking and throwing his heater. In his first ever start for a Terp, he pitched 5 innings and recorded 6 strikeouts, a career high in his first appearance for Maryland. This is a guy who comes in with high velocity and high expectations, looking to fill the big shoes left by Kyle McCoy, last season's Friday night starter for the Terps, who was drafted in the 8th round by the Cincinnati Reds. Now, speaking of guys who have spent some time down in Baton Rouge, LSU transfer Ryan Costello has a chance to be one of the Terps' best offensive players this season, and he showed some of that LSU talent this weekend in Wilmington. He recorded his first home run, a moonshot to right field, and followed it up with 5 total RBIs in the series, 2 of which came on extra base hits, and also played some good defense out in first base. Costello was extremely highly recruited coming out of high school in New Jersey. He was a top 100 prospect according to Perfect Game. Spent some time at LSU, won a national title over there. Now he goes into Matt Swope's hitting lab and has a chance to succeed Hollis Porter and Eddie Akopian, 2 Terp greats who played first base last season and the couple years before that. Costello really can be a key piece this year if he keeps up his good form. Now, another Terp transfer who has been making waves in the opening series is a guy who's been doing damage with the bat in his hands and with the glove. It's UNC Asheville transfer Rylan Stockton. Stockton comes in as a highly prized transfer from one of the mid-majors in UNC Asheville. He hit over 300 down in North Carolina last season while also knocking out 7 home runs. What did he do? Returning to the state he once played college baseball in, he hit the first Terps home run this season, an absolute missile out to left center field. If Stockton can even come close to the offensive production that last year's Terp catcher Alex Calarco had, well, Maryland might just have another great catcher on its hands, continuing that lineage that last checked off with Alex Calarco and even goes back to Luke Schliger, a guy who's had one of the best offensive seasons for Maryland just 3 years ago. And guys, look, this Maryland team might not have the lofty expectations that the squads in 22 and 23 had, but this is a young, scrappy group of Terps that look pretty locked in through its first 3 games. Depending on how Tuesday and beyond goes, this team could definitely turn some heads. Ben, Ryan, back to you.
There's your latest on baseball. Thanks so much, Daniel. And with the beauty of crossover season, let's get back to winter sports, where Maryland Gymnastics posted another great road score. After a poor home meet against Rutgers, the Gym Terps were up in East Lansing, looking for some better scores at the Michigan State Tri-Meet. And Maryland did just that, posting its 3rd straight road 196 score, finishing 2nd, behind number 11 Michigan State and ahead of Western Michigan. And this one, Maddie Komorowski starred. She was the team leader on bars and beam in Maryland's first 2 events. Maryland fans also saw a season-high 9.775 on beam by Raina Engelmeyer, a season-high 9.875 vault from Taylor Reck. And a rarity for the Gym Terps, floor was Maryland's best event as part of that second-place finish.
Well, Maryland Wrestling entered Sunday seeking its first Big Ten win of the season. Alex Clemson's squad couldn't do it, moving to 0-8 in conference play, but despite a 29-16 loss to number 2 ranked Ohio State, progress was made. The Pav was rocking in College Park, and the Terps take advantage early. Their 16 eventual points mark a season high in Big Ten play. But after dropping the first 3 bouts, Maryland gets on the board courtesy of its ranked wrestlers in number 6 Carter Young and number 17 Branson John, the latter of which claimed his first win against a top 10 opponent this season. But it's not enough to overcome the early Buckeyes lead. Here's Terps coach Alex Clemson after the loss.
And then accepting that wrestling's just hard, and it doesn't matter if you win by 10 or you win in overtime, or you do your job and find a way to control a bonus point. And in this sport, it's hard every day.
And now last, but certainly not least, of the 9 Maryland athletic team sports we're covering in this packed episode, let's go down to Greenville, North Carolina, where Maryland softball picked up a trio of wins in its 5 games at ECU's Purple Gold Classic. Here's how the Terps get it done. It starts with a win over Buffalo. And how about a shout out to freshman catcher Zeta Rock, the Northeast Maryland native and former Caravel Academy Buccaneer over in Delaware. Picks up a fantastic time for her first career homer. She had a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th inning for an extra innings win over the Buffaloes. Rock would add another home run Sunday against ECU. She becomes the first Terp this season with multiple home runs as Maryland goes 3-2 on the weekend.
Don't go anywhere because it's game time on the other side.
That's right, Ben. Plus, we're crowning our Terp of the Week and top 5 plays. Stick with us.
back to the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. It's game time, and it's been way too long without our famed Locks or Knocks segment. So we thought, why not bring it back with a special spring sports twist?
That's right, Ben. We're now joined by Jonah Jansevich, associate producer here with Terrapin Sports Central. You take a look at how it works. Again, we'll keep sharing hot takes, have 2 minutes to discuss, and then we'll say we'll either lock it or knock it. Again, with Jonah Jansevich joining us. You take a look at what we have here today. Guys, we got the lock with us, right? So this is unlocked, or we can lock it in. Locks or knocks?
I like it.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's great.
So I'll go first. My first take comes after a loss at Syracuse for Maryland men's lacrosse. The Terps have made it to Memorial Day, the championship game, each of the last 2 years. My lock or knock is Maryland men's lacrosse is no longer even a Final Four team. The Terps don't make it to Memorial Day weekend as one of the Final Four remaining teams. It's my own take, guys. I'm going to lock this one in. I think John Tillman's got a really talented squad. I also think this might be the most parity we see in the sport in quite some time. Syracuse looks good. I think some of those Ivy League teams are going to be really solid as well. Guys, I just see so many alternate paths that could happen. I could see Maryland being on the outside looking in for Memorial Day weekend. Hate to see it if you're a Terps fan, but maybe it's time for a different of the Final Four teams.
Yeah, I could not disagree more there, Ryan. I'm not even going to take this because I'm not going to lock it in. It's so egregious of a take to me because Maryland started this year #1. If I stand corrected, they lost to the #2 team by just 2 goals. That's not much of a margin there. There's not much of a drop-off, and I'd argue this schedule gauntlet kind of helps them. 8 of their next 9 matchups are against ranked opponents. Isn't it better to get those out of the way early so you're ready for the postseason?
I'm going to lock this one on. I'm going to lock this one in, BG. This is a lock. This team lost a lot from last year. 16 players left from last year's team.
They're top 2 team in the country.
Logan McNaney is a big difference. We just saw this against Syracuse. The defense and the goalkeeping is not what last year's team is. This is a lock.
Okay, I'll move on to mine now. A similar but different one. I'll go to the hardwood. Maryland women's basketball is a Final Four team this year. I'll explain why after you two decide.
Ben, I hate to be the negative guy, right? I just had the pick of Maryland men's lacrosse isn't a Final Four team. I'm going to unlock this take too. I don't see Maryland women's basketball being one of the Final Four remaining. Yes, the Terps had a good run to the Sweet 16 last year. Those injuries are the concern for me, right? You lose 3 starters. You lose your returning point scorer last season in Keelan Schmeichel. At some point, and especially in March, that depth could play a factor. I see Maryland women's basketball going far in the NCAA tournament, not Final Four far.
Jonah, how about you?
Keep that unlocked. Keep that unlocked right there. This take is as forced as the LeBron mentioned earlier on the broadcast.
What?
This is a bad take. You lose Kayleen Schmeichel. You lose Leah Barthelme.
But
you have Bree McDaniel out the entire year. This is not a lock.
Come on.
Knocks.
Again, I couldn't disagree more. This team has gone through so much. Okay, remember the tortoise and the hare analogy, right? The tortoise, in this case, is the top 25, especially UCLA, Texas, all the highly concentrated teams.
You think this team is better than UCLA?
The hare, rather.
Let me
go back. The hare, the rabbit, what have you. Those are the top 5 teams. They race out to an early start. The tortoise is Maryland, literally and figuratively. They're a tortoise. They start off slow. They lose early. They have a lot of injuries. Now they're surging. 4 straight wins. Another stat here for you guys. 9 teams in the top 25 this week drop different spots. The hare's falling behind. Maryland went up 6. The tortoise is surging. The tortoise isn't across the finish line.
It's middle of February. We'll see.
This is not going to happen.
All right, Jonah, what's your take?
My take is Maryland. The entire athletic department will not win a national championship in the next 10 years. Now, the most recent one was 2022 with men's lacrosse, but I'm not confident in all of Maryland sports after seeing the past couple years. They're not winning natty in the next 10 years.
10 years. You know how much can happen in 10 years, Jonah? I just can't lock that in. Chris Paul can retire in 10 years. LeBron can still be playing in the NBA in 10 years.
LeBron
so much can happen. Of course, I see the Terps winning at least one championship in the next decade.
What's the sport?
How many? Men's lacrosse, to name a few. Women's basketball, probably. Definitely not men's hoops. But a couple options there. There's a lot of sports to choose from. You got 10 years to do it. I'm pretty confident.
I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because I agree with Ben right here. This one is about as locked out as you can be. Listen, I said men's lacrosse is not a Final Four team this year. Same thing about women's basketball. Joni, you give me a decade, I think I can see a Maryland athletics team win a championship. You mentioned men's lacrosse in 2022. Don't forget that just before COVID, men's soccer was on top of the NCAA landscape. In a decade, I think a Maryland athletics team can certainly do it.
But we keep saying that they will win it and will win it, but every time they've fallen short. Remember field hockey? Missy Mahark, legendary coach, their last title is 2011. I think that's going to be happening to these other programs like men's soccer and men's lacrosse.
I'm not betting against Sasha, though. I'm not betting against Tillman. Kathy Reese and company, an award-winning list of coaches. They're in the win at least one.
Jonah, I think that's the Oakland A's, Las Vegas A's fans speaking with the pessimism there. But whatever it is, that'll do it for another fun game of Locks or Knocks. Always a great time with you both. But now it's time to give out some weekly awards, Ben.
Let's do it.
Maryland men's basketball split its 2 games this weekend, winning versus Iowa and losing yesterday at Rutgers. But the Terps easily could have had another winless week if it wasn't for a redshirt freshman's new career high. Guys, Andre Mills put on a masterclass for Maryland Wednesday, and now he's our Terp of the week. And no, it's not just because Mills is a Massachusetts guy too. This is why. Mills was high-flying, touch the skying, and straight up tough in Maryland's 7-point win Wednesday against Iowa. Mills had a season-high 24 points against the Hawkeyes while playing all 40 regulation minutes for the first time in his career. The Texas A&M transfer added 5 rebounds in the win over Iowa and then became a point of emphasis for Rutgers' defense yesterday. Mills cooled down a bit to 9 points against the Scarlet Knights, but still found a way to tie his conference season high with 7 rebounds. On what could be the first of many, we want to congratulate Andre Mills on being named our Terp of the Week.
Well, the NBA hosted its All-Star festivities in the nation's best sports city this weekend, and some former Maryland men's basketball standouts took center stage. Let's go back to the association for our Pro Terps of the Week. So nice we had to double up and do it twice. The honor goes to Miami Heat two-way guard Jameer Young and Pels rookie Derek Queen, both of who played in Friday night's Rising Stars game. Young was called up from South Beach as an injury replacement for Chicago Bulls guard Mac McClung and suited up for Team Austin, led by former pro Austin Rivers. Young, who's been averaging 26 points a game this season for Miami's G League affiliate, buries this corner triple, an exclamation mark on what's been a breakout campaign for the former Terp star. Queen, on the other hand, impressed for Team Vince, which won the Rising Stars championship. Number 22 is averaging 12 points and 7 rebounds in his first season in the Big Easy, and now he's got more hardware to bring back to Baltimore. Congrats to Jameer Young and Derek Queen on being named our Terps of the Week.
And just a quick mention for Los Angeles, of course, got a shout out as the best sports town. I don't know about best sports town, but we'll take it for the All-Star break, and I think it's time for some top 5 plays.
Let's do it. Starting off with number 5, let's go to the wrestling mat here in the PAV. It's Seth Digby, the sudden victory win on a rough day, 29-16 loss. He was one of the highlights, Ryan. Take another look, this time in slow motion on this takedown, the sudden victory. You see the leg grab, he's driving into the mat. That's number 5 on our top 5.
That means there's got to be 4 really great plays after that freshman got the finish. How about Leo Johnson up in the dome? He's got the early Maryland team lead in goals. Thinks about going left, goes right, and gets the scoring started for the Terps. Slow it down right there, finds bottom left corner. Fortunately for the Terps, it wasn't enough. 11-9 loss to Syracuse.
Number 3, back to the hardwood, Andre Mills, a miracle and one. Andre Mills, how do you do? A career-high 24 points. That's the most points by a Maryland freshman this season. A rising star for years to come, and the redshirt freshman putting in work for the Terps.
The Mills masterclass. Let's go back to the mat against number 2 Ohio State. How about Branson John picking a great time for his first career pin in conference wrestling? He's got both hands in the air. For someone who's a true sophomore, earns the pin. Fortunately for Maryland, wasn't enough in a 29-16 loss to Ohio State.
Sailor Poffenbarger wore her Robert Ory jean on Sunday. A logo shot from the O. Oh my goodness! A 19-point comeback capitalized by this. Take another look. That's Curry-esque. That's Paul George-esque. That's Dame Lillard-esque. Oh my goodness, Sailor from the logo.
We got intramural playoffs coming up. Are we going to have some of those logo 3s for our intramural team?
I hope so. Let's spread it across the board a little bit.
I don't know if we have Sailor Poffenbarger range. We'll see.
Hopefully we won't have to be in those close games
we'll see.
too. Hopefully we blow them out.
Had a good win right before the playoffs. And that'll do it for this evening. Make sure to follow all of our coverage on Instagram, X, YouTube, and online at terrapinsportscentral.com.
That's all, folks. Thanks for joining us. Daniel Stein and Brendan Weisel will have you covered next week.
It'll be must-see TV, but until then, we'll see you.